Alex had just started working the night shift at an old, abandoned warehouse turned storage facility. It was a massive building, with towering shelves stacked with forgotten crates and dust-covered machinery. The previous security guard had quit suddenly, but Alex didn't ask too many questions, he just needed the paycheck. The first few nights were uneventful, with nothing but the hum of the building and the occasional creak from the old structure. But on the fifth night, something changed. As Alex made his rounds, he heard a faint tapping sound echoing through the halls. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but the sound grew louder, almost rhythmic, like someone tapping on metal. Following the sound, he found himself in the oldest section of the warehouse. This area was rarely used, filled with crates that hadn't been touched in years. As he walked down the narrow aisle between the shelves, the tapping suddenly stopped. Silence enveloped the space, and a chill ran down his spine. Suddenly, a box on the top shelf shifted, teetering on the edge. Alex jumped back just in time as the heavy crate came crashing down, narrowly missing him. Heart pounding, he shone his flashlight around, but there was no one there. He reported the incident to his supervisor, but they brushed it off, saying it was probably just a loose shelf. Still, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. The next night, the tapping returned, only this time, it was closer. As he walked through the darkened aisles, the sound seemed to follow him, growing louder and more insistent. Alex called out, but there was no response. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a shadow dart between the shelves. He ran to the spot, but it was empty, no sign of anyone. Determined to catch whatever was playing tricks on him, Alex set up security cameras around the warehouse. That night, he sat in the security office, watching the monitors. At first, everything seemed normal, but around 3 a.m., one of the cameras picked up movement. A shadowy figure appeared on the screen, moving between the shelves in the old section. Alex grabbed his flashlight and rushed to the location, but when he got there, the figure was gone. As he stood in the eerie silence, a cold breeze swept through the aisle, and the temperature dropped. Then, he heard it, a voice, faint and whispery, calling his name. Panicked, Alex turned and sprinted back to the security office. He reviewed the footage, but the figure had disappeared just as mysteriously as it had appeared. The next day, Alex quit his job, unable to shake the feeling that something malevolent was lurking in the shadows. The lesson: some places hold memories and spirits of the past, and when disturbed, they will make their presence known in terrifying ways. Jess and her friends were thrill seekers. They loved exploring abandoned places, especially those rumored to be haunted. So when they heard about an old warehouse on the outskirts of town that had been abandoned for decades, they couldn't resist. The warehouse had once been a bustling hub of activity, but after a series of unexplained accidents, it had been shut down. Locals whispered about strange happenings inside the building, but no one had dared to investigate, until now. Jess and her group arrived at the warehouse just after sunset. The building loomed over them, its broken windows and rusted doors giving it a sinister appearance. Ignoring the eerie feeling that crept up her spine, Jess led the group inside. The air was thick with dust, and the floor creaked beneath their feet. As they made their way through the maze of empty rooms and forgotten machinery, they heard strange sounds, footsteps, whispers, and the occasional clanging of metal. At first, they thought it was just the building settling, but the sounds became more persistent. Then, Jess saw it. In the far corner of one of the larger rooms, a figure stood in the shadows. It was tall and motionless, its face obscured by the darkness. She called out, thinking it might be one of her friends, but the figure didn't move. A chill ran through her as the others joined her, staring at the shadowy figure. Before anyone could react, the figure stepped forward, and the air grew unbearably cold. They all bolted for the door, but as they ran, the sound of footsteps followed them, heavy, deliberate, and getting closer. Once outside, they stopped to catch their breath. Jess glanced back at the warehouse, and to her horror, the figure was standing in the doorway, watching them. They never went back, but Jess couldn't shake the feeling that the man in the shadows was still watching, waiting for them to return. The lesson: some places are abandoned for a reason, and when we disturb what lies within, we might awaken something that should have remained hidden. In the 1970s, a large warehouse was built on the outskirts of a small industrial town. It quickly became one of the town's main employers, with dozens of workers bustling in and out every day. But not long after it opened, strange rumors began to circulate. Workers started reporting odd occurrences, tools disappearing, strange noises at night, and a feeling of being watched. At first, it was dismissed as nerves or overwork, but then people started going missing. It began with a young man named Tom, who worked the night shift. One evening, Tom clocked in for his shift but was never seen again. His car was still in the parking lot, and his belongings were left in the break room, but he had vanished without a trace. A thorough search of the warehouse and surrounding area turned up nothing. The disappearance shook the workers, but the warehouse couldn't afford to shut down. So, the night shift continued, but the workers were uneasy. Then, a few months later, another worker went missing, this time a woman named Linda. Like Tom, Linda had clocked in for her shift but never made it home. The police investigated, but there were no leads. The warehouse was searched again, but it seemed as if the building itself had swallowed them whole. After Linda's disappearance, the night shift was cancelled, and the warehouse only operated during daylight hours. But the strange occurrences didn't stop. Tools still went missing, strange noises echoed through the halls, and workers reported seeing shadowy figures moving between the shelves. One day, a worker named Bill was on the loading dock when he heard a faint voice calling his name. He followed the sound into the depths of the warehouse, where the crates were stacked high and the lights barely reached. As he turned a corner, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Standing in the shadows were Tom and Linda, their faces pale and expressionless. They stared at him for a moment before fading into the darkness, leaving behind a chilling silence. Bill ran back to the loading dock, but when he told his supervisor what he had seen, no one believed him. The warehouse was eventually shut down after more workers refused to return, but the mystery of the missing employees was never solved. Some say their spirits still wander the dark corridors, waiting for someone to discover what really happened to them. The lesson: some mysteries are never meant to be solved, and when we push too far into the unknown, we may uncover things that were better left undisturbed. Each of these disturbing warehouse horror stories serves as a reminder that the unknown can be terrifying. Whether it's the restless spirits of those who perished, malevolent entities tied to cursed locations, or mysteries that remain unsolved, warehouses often hold more than just forgotten items. The moral here is clear: some places are best left unexplored, and the past may hold dark secrets that we are not meant to uncover.